Hi guys, it's Simon. So I want to make this video today to help you guys out with science. So remember yesterday we started learning a little bit more about the hydrosphere, okay? We can kind of think from yesterday. Remember hydrosphere, what's included in the hydrosphere is all of the water on Earth, okay? And specifically yesterday, remember we talked about 70% of Earth is actually made of water. And water is so important. The hydrosphere is so important because all organisms need water in order to survive. Us as humans are also made of 70% water. Okay. And it was kind of shocking at the end of the lesson yesterday. We learned exactly how much of Earth was saltwater and how much was freshwater. So we learned yesterday that 97 and 0.5% of all the water on Earth is actually salt water. And we can't use salt water. So that leaves only 2 and 0.5% of fresh water that we can actually use. Okay. So today we're actually going to look at that 2 and 0.5% and see how that is distributed across the Earth. And we're going to learn that we actually don't even have 2 and 0.5% to use. We actually have even smaller amount. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Remember, if I highlight it, you need to put it down in your notes, please. All right, guys, so this here kind of gives us a visual on how water is such a precious resource, okay? So looking at where and how the 2 and 0.5% of fresh water on Earth is stored, it becomes evident that there isn't that much after all, okay? So if we look at this first picture here, okay, this is where we see the 97.5% that is salt water. And then this small blue section is all the fresh water we have. And then we've taken that fresh water and broke it up even more. So of that 2.5%, almost 69% is stuck in glaciers and ice caps. That means it's frozen. So the majority of this 2.5%, guys, we can't even use. It's frozen in glaciers and ice caps, okay? So of that 2.5%, 30% is found underground, and a small 1% is in surface and other fresh water. So like in rivers, lakes, streams, things like that. Okay. So this is kind of shocking. If we look at this second kind of picture here, we see that of that 2.5%, we can't even use most of it because almost 70% of that 2.5% is frozen. Okay, so that makes water even more of a precious resource. All right, so freshwater. After oceans, the largest supply of water on Earth can be found in the form of freshwater. However, this water supply does not look like the usable water found on the right, okay? So this fresh water that we're talking about, it doesn't just come out of our faucet, okay? There's lots of different things that we are talking about when we say fresh water, and it's not just faucet water. So go ahead, let's put this down. After oceans, the largest supply of water on Earth can be found in the form of fresh water. And remember, guys, that fresh water isn't actually really a lot because 97.5% is salt water and only 2.5% is fresh water. So after salt water, the next largest supply of water is our fresh water. All right, now we're going to break down the amount of fresh water and where it's located. So glaciers are where we find most of our fresh water. Okay, so go ahead and put that down, glaciers. Glaciers are large bodies of thick ice that are found primarily near the North and South poles, such as in Antarctica and Greenland. And if we look at this picture up here, we can kind of see glaciers are just a giant block of frozen water, guys. It's a giant block of frozen ice. And we see them a lot, okay, and where it's very cold, like in Antarctica and in Greenland and at the North and South poles. And nearly 69%, this is important, nearly 69% of Earth's fresh water is trapped in these glaciers. So of that 2.5%, of water on Earth that's freshwater, most freshwater is stuck in glaciers. All right, moving on. So similar to glaciers, water becomes trapped in snow or ice, okay? So we also see water as frozen water. So, and we can think about this, why don't we run out of water in the winter? Think about it. Why don't we run out of water in the winter? Well, if we think about this, guys, snow or ice is just frozen water, okay? So eventually that snow, that ice is going to melt and that's going to turn into liquid water. So we don't run out of water in the winter because frozen water is just that, frozen water. When it melts, it goes back into the ground and we are able to use it. Our next form of freshwater is groundwater, okay? So besides glaciers and besides frozen water, the next place you're gonna find freshwater is groundwater. So go ahead and put that down in your notes, please. Groundwater. Okay, so the final place you're going to find fresh water on Earth would be underground, and about 30% of fresh water on Earth exists as groundwater. So of that 2.5%, 30% of that is groundwater. And it makes sense. This water gets underground because it soaks into the earth. And we can see this, guys, because if you've ever been to the beach, and I'm sure you've been digging in the sand, once you dig far enough, you eventually hit water. Okay. Many of you at home might have well water for your source of water. Okay. You might have a well. That's where people dig all the way down and eventually hit water. And people use that as their water for their house. So that can occur anywhere on Earth, guys. Almost anywhere you dig down, you'll find fresh water. You just have to dig deep enough. So again, we have most of our fresh water is stuck in glaciers. Okay. With that, remember about 60% of our fresh water is stuck in glaciers. And then of that 2.5% of fresh water, 30% of it is groundwater. And finally, for fresh water, we have surface water. And representing only 1.2% of the total fresh water available on Earth, surface water is some of the most visible. When we think of water, this is kind of what we think of. So of that 2.5%, 1.2% is known as fresh water. I'm sorry, not as fresh water. Of the 2.5% that's fresh water, 1.2% of it is surface water. So go ahead and add this to your notes, please. Surface water. So only 1.2% of the total fresh water available on Earth is surface water, and it's some of the most visible. So when we think of freshwater, guys, we think of swamps, rivers, lakes, marshes, all of those things. And this surface water, guys, is very important to animals because this is what they use to drink. So of the 2.5%, 1.2% is surface water, and that's where we get our swamps, rivers, lakes, and things like that. So of all the water on Earth, approximately how much is fresh? So of all of the water on Earth, how much is fresh? About how much? If You said 3%. You are correct. It's 2.5%, so that's about 3%. What type of water is most prevalent on Earth? That means what type of water do you see the most on Earth? Freshwater, saltwater, evaporated water, or frozen water? You said saltwater. You are correct. All right, guys, so that's where we're going to end for today. So remember, today we're focusing on that fresh water. So there is only 2.5% of all the water on Earth is fresh water. And then we break that 2.5% down into 60%. The majority of fresh water is stuck in glaciers and we can't even use it. Okay. We have groundwater, which makes up 30%. Okay. We have surface water, okay, which makes up about 1.2% of that 2.5%. And then we have frozen water, which we can kind of see in snow and ice, okay? So I hope that this video was helpful, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.